I have the honor of talking about my colleague Elizabeth Neuffer, who unfortunately is no longer with us. She was a journalist in just the best tradition.
17 years ago this month, I stood before her friends at the Boston Globe to report that she had died covering the war in Iraq. Elizabeth was 46, an experienced foreign correspondent, a mentor to others, vivacious and brave. Her Iraqi driver was traveling at high speed because of the risk of abductions. He lost control. Elizabeth died instantly. Her translator, too. Elizabeth had a record of fearlessness in investigating war crimes and human rights abuses. Her goal? Reveal the world as it is, because someone might then make things better.
My guest, Elizabeth Neuffer, recently returned from 6 weeks in the Gulf region, reporting on Iraq, Kuwait, and Jordan. Neuffer covers foreign affairs and the United Nations for the Boston Globe. She also covered the war against terrorism in Afghanistan, the war in Bosnia, and the 1991 Gulf War. She wrote about the aftermath of war and the war crimes tribunals in her book, The Key to My Neighbor's House, Seeking Justice in Bosnia and Rwanda.
Back in 1990, you have to understand, being a woman and covering the Middle East was something that just really hadn't happened up until then. In the streets, it was Elizabeth who managed to latch on to a translator and a driver for us. She immediately arranged our programs. She took us out to meet Kuwaitis who had stories of what had happened during the Iraqi occupation, and she was just relentless in documenting everything that had happened during the Iraqi occupation. She wrote meticulous, thoroughly researched stories.
Is there a story that you've told that has had the biggest impact, that you feel really good about?
Well, I'd have to, again, refer back to The Key to My Neighbor's House. I was really haunted by some of the people I covered in Bosnia and Rwanda, and that's why I chose to take time off and to write the book. So the two stories I feel most strongly about are Hassan Nuhanovic, and I told his story at various points throughout the Bosnian War. Hassan is a survivor of Srebrenica, the UN-safe area that was overrun by Bosnian Serb troops. 8,000 Bosnian men and boys were slaughtered. Hassan survived, but he lost his family. And a series of stories I know answered a lot of questions for him about sort of who had pulled the trigger and why. And that was kind of a pretty neat thing to be able to do. The second story is, again, Witness JJ, this remarkable woman I met in Rwanda after the genocide. I told her story, along with that of other women, of how they were willing to come forward and talk about their rape. Just an extraordinary set of accounts, particularly in conservative Rwanda, where women rarely talk about issues of sex. And wrote that story, and when I returned, I guess 3 or 4 years later, I found that, in fact, Witness JJ, and you notice I'm calling her Witness JJ and not by her name, had gone on to be a lead witness at the UN War Crimes Tribunal. And in fact, it's due to her testimony that rape is now considered to be an act of genocide. That is a historical first for women.
To whomever finds this is being written at the end of 1999 and at the beginning of a new millennium. It is also the end of a century, what has been one of the bloodiest centuries ever seen. Despite the incredible advancements mankind has made in science, the arts, and medicine, as a foreign correspondent for the Boston Globe, which hopefully still is a newspaper that publishes in New England, that worked out pretty well so far, I had some part in seeing some of this bloodshed while reporting on wars in the Gulf, Bosnia, and Rwanda. I would hope by the time you find this note, wars are extinct. But if they are not, please think again and stop them. I'd like to think the next millennium will be one in which people are not killed or prejudiced against because of their race, ethnicity, or religion. In fact, all of us in 1999 are counting on you to ensure the future is one of peace. Please make it so. Elizabeth Neuffer. Let's remember that tonight and for a long time, shall we?